So I'm taking down my acoustic kit in my home studio, and before I do, I thought I'll try and capture this kit within the V7.1 Roland drum module. Now the Roland drum module, the new V7.1, says you can put user samples in. So I'm going to sample each element of my drum kit, put it into the V7.1 drum module, and let's see if we can build that up to be a kit in its own right. Now, we'll let future me tell us how that worked out. I have no idea at this stage. We'll give it a go. Let's see what we can learn. If you value my independence, I'm not sponsored by anyone, clearly, but if you value my independence, please hit the subscribe button. It really does make a difference. And if you like this type of video, please hit the like button, and then I'll know you like this type of video. Okay, let's go to the video and check out future me.
To be able to record your drums into samples, you will need a microphone and you will need a USB interface. Now the interface doesn't have to be as big as the one in the picture, just have enough for the mics you want to use. In my case, I used 2 microphones so I could select which one gave me the better recording to turn into samples. Here we go. So once you've finished recording all your samples, make sure you save them somewhere where you can find them easily and give them a good file name. Next thing after that is open up your DAW. In my case, I'm using Cakewalk. And for this, I'm going to just open up one of the Crash Cymbals samples. Now we're going to listen to 3 of the strikes, choose which one we like best, and then we're going to select that for output to be a sample ready to go into the Roland V7.1 drum module. Okay, let's give this a go. Okay, so that was the first strike. I like the way it started. It didn't have a bad finish on it. Well, let's have a listen to the second strike and see how that finishes. That's definitely got much more sustain on it, so I'm liking that one pretty good. Now let's have a listen to the third. Yeah, that was definitely a very fast finish on that one. So I'm liking the second one. I'm thinking I've got a better sustain. So what we're going to do is we're going to select that second file. So get it as close as you can to the beginning of that waveform and drag it out so you can see the end of the waveform and a little bit further. And then just export that particular selection out. Now for the Roland V7.1, you're going to have to do that as a WAV file. So firstly, make sure you give it a file name so you can find it easily. And then we're going to go and make sure that it's a wave. And we are going to put it as a mono track. And that's at 44.1 and a 24 bit rate. Okay, once you've done that, in my case, I'm checking the parameters to make sure everything I'm exporting is what I'm exporting. Export that out. And there you go. There's your first sample ready to put into your module. So now it's time to open up your V7.1 editor on your computer, and we'll use that to import the samples into the V7.1 drum module. So then once it's open, go to the user sample, click on that drop down menu for user sample, and there you'll see there's a whole bunch that I've already done in my first test run just to make sure I could do the video. And what we'll first do is I'll just show you, edit is really how to edit each sample. Renumber is for when you have a bunch of spaces, you can just renumber it, it'll just take it away. Optimize is like doing a defrag, and delete is just that it deletes out whatever file or files you've selected. So now I think actually what we'll do is we'll select it from, we'll start at sample number 40, and that's where we'll import them in from. So what we do from there is we'll do a bulk import. and we'll just simply open up the window where I've saved them all. So these are all the cymbal samples. I'm just going to select them all. Select them all, there you go. And we'll drag them in and it'll start at number 40. It's highlighted and I've pointed to it. And of course, what you'll get is you'll get that sweet little import confirm button. Confirm that. Now this is going in real time, so it'll take a while. This is probably where you're thinking, gee, I wish there was some music to listen to, but, well, you know YouTube. I'll probably get the wrong one and then we'll have a whole pause of silence. So, hey, why not listen to me talking about something I don't even know what to talk about right now. But anyway, it's nearly finished uploading everything. There we go. And it's loading it into your drum module. That easy. Okay. So now let's have a double check. They're the ones I've done. And that's all the ones that we've just put in. I did have a little bit of a problem with the hi-hats and the ride cymbals, but we'll look at that a bit later on. Let's firstly get the cowbell ready to put in. There's the cowbell, and we'll go and edit that to put it ready into there. So we'll click Edit. So now we're editing it actually in the module, and what you can see there is the waveform for the cowbell. And what we're going to do, we're not going to rename it. What we're going to do is we're just going to change that line so that white line is right on the beginning of the waveform, because when you strike the pad, that's where you want it to start. So I strike the pad, it'll start right on the beginning of it. It is a little hard to do on this. I think if there was ever an improvement, they could actually fine-tune it by being able to use the numbering system rather than just the dial. It's a little rough using the dial. Anyway, we're going to finish the sample now to where I can see the tail of it finishing. And lastly, I'm going to change that to a poly. Now the mono is more about if you hit it once, the whole sample needs to finish. If you change it to poly, the multiple times you hit it, each sample will strike over. So if you want to do a cymbal roll, you really need poly. So I've set everything to poly. Okay, once we've done that, we close it. It remembers everything straight away, so it's automatically saved. And close off that. And there we have it. That's ready to go. Okay, now let's say you've got a sample that you want to get rid of. All you need to do is go back to your user sample in your editor. Make sure that you select the right one. Let's delete this one here and just hit delete. And you'll be asked if you're sure, delete it. And that'll now be out of your module. Won't be available. Complete. And just to show you, nothing up my sleeves. Down we go. And it's gone. You can also bulk delete. Just select all the ones that you want to do in one go. Delete. And it'll ask you if you're sure. And it's just about done. It's updating your module for you. And that's complete. So now let's have a look how we can assign the samples that you've taken from your acoustic kit and assign each sample to each relevant cymbal, drum, etc. on your electric kit. Okay, so opening up the V71 editor, we'll simply, as always, select the drum that you want to assign to. So I've selected Tom 2 here, or in my case on my VAD, that is the 12-inch tom. And we're going to change that over to the sample of the 12-inch tom from my PDP. So simply go over to here, left click, and go to user samples, and I'm just going to select here 12-inch tom. And now we'll get the sound of the 12-inch tom from my PDP. What's worth noting with toms is that at the moment I have got the tom sound coming across on the head of the tom when I strike it, and on the rim of my pad as well. Now you can undo that if you want to.
So if you want to put a rim sound on there, or you want to put another sample on there, make the most of all the triggers that you've got, you can do that. So for example, well, let's have a look. If you unlink the head and rim link, so it's this little blue thing here, it's actually a button. Take that off, and now we can go to left click under the rim, and you can put your own samples on. What I'll do is I'll put a cross stick sample on, and let's make it this one here, and I'll just bring that down like that. Now the reason I've put that on there is it's probably the best emulation to a rim that I can think of that comes standard. Of course, if you want your rim sound off your tom, you need to record the rim sound off your tom, import it into your sample base, and then just simply assign it to each rim as you want to. I'll put that there for a moment because it kind of strikes me, you know, if I want to do, say, ZZ Top's Lagrange, the opening in there, it's got a nice little bit of riff work, nice little bit of rim work. Personally, I reckon that looks pretty cool doing that rim work off your rack toms. It looks better front of house. So I'll just assign it to there for the moment. That's pretty much the toms. I also run a little BT bar on my kit. And on there, I'll put the cowbell sound. I can assign that on there. So this one here is the BT bar. Sounds like a snare at the moment, like a little auxiliary. And what we can do is go to use a sample. Oops, sorry. Left click on there. Go to use a sample. Cowbell, and now my BT bar has got a cowbell sound on it. So that's your toms, other simple accessories that you've got on there, and if it's a dual trigger, no problems. Just remember, you can do both of your dual triggers by simply turning off the head and rim link. Okay, now let's go and have a look at some cymbals. We'll start with the simple parts first. Those are the crash cymbals sitting here. So that's the bow of the crash cymbal. Oh, and that is the edge of the crash cymbal. You want to assign your own crash cymbals to there. I certainly do. That's really easy. Select the one that you want. And then, just like with the toms, left click, go to user samples. And look, let's put in my little 2002 crash. Where is it? Crash. Ooh. Where is my 2002? Anyway, we'll put this out. Oh, the Zeldin crash. Oh, here they are. That's my 2002 crash. Oh, sorry. So that's my 2002 crash. I only sampled the edge sound on my crashes, and to be honest, that's the way I crash. I don't play the bows on there, so I could actually. So it'll turn on the head and rim link. I'll go back on there and it can do it for me. Left click, use a sample, boom. Okay, so now it doesn't matter where on the cymbal I strike, be it the bow, be it the edge. It doesn't matter when I'm playing. I'm going to get the edge sound that I've sampled. If you want the bow sound, hey, record the bow sound, and it goes on what Roland have, funnily enough, called the head of the cymbal. We'll call it a bow like everybody else, and just for chuckles, they've called the edge of a cymbal a rim. Go figure. Anyway, that's all I need to say about crash cymbals. Ride cymbals. I've got the digital ride, so I'm using the, oh my goodness gracious, it escapes me now. I'm using the CY18DR Digital Ride. So gives me 3 zones. So the bow, the bell, and the edge. Okay, now what's worth noting in here, if I go here to the bow, or what they call the head, and I want to put in my user sample, so let's go to my 2002 Ride, boom, 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 the bow, there we go. Okay, so you can see what it's done here is it's put all 3 elements of my cymbal across to the bow. Now that is only because I forgot to unclick this. So unclick the link, and now I can go into the edge, and I can go whoop, to the Ride edge of my 2002, put that in, and I can go to the bell, left click, and I can go to the Ride bell 2002. Alright, so now what we have is the edge, bow, and the bell. So the Ride cymbal is just a little bit different than the Crashes, but actually it's really not. You've got 3 elements. Just remember to turn that off so you can assign all 3 elements. Alright, let's have a look at the snare drum. The snare drum's a real treat. We can do a lot with the snare drum. Alright. Let's start here with the snare drum. So on the head of the snare drum, as normal, I'll leave the link turned off now. On the head of the snare drum, left click. I'll go to my truth snare. Done. And that's the sound that I recorded off my truth snare. The rim, because I've had it off, sits like that still. If you want to get a rim shot sound, you'll need to sample it. I didn't sample one, but if you did, this is where you'd put your rim shot sound. So left click, I'm just going to put my truth snare drum in there. And the reason I do that, so let me find that. The reason I do that is my playing is a little sloppy sometimes when I get tired, and I'll sometimes strike the rim when I don't mean to. So that way it doesn't matter where on the snare drum I hit it, I get the snare drum sound that I'm after. But should you want to put a rim shot in, just remember, record it, take off the link and just shove your rim shot there. Now the other thing about the snare drum is in the V7.1 editor you also have this lovely thing called snare settings. Let's go to that, and what we can see here is we've got a cross stick. So the snare, regardless of, I'll go back to here, regardless of what you've put here, if you put your rim shot, doesn't matter. You go to snare settings, you can still add on, in addition to your rim shot, add on your cross stick sound. And that's because on the digital snare, you're putting your hand on the head of the snare drum and cross sticking across to your rim. And I think that's enough for it to say, hey, I'm doing a cross stick, rather than just doing a rim shot. Works great. So simply, I didn't record a sample of my cross sticks on my snare drum. To be quite honest, I really like the cross stick sounds that come in here. But anyway, if you wanted to change it, same deal. You've gone to snare settings, go into your cross stick sound, you can go to user samples, and if you happen to have one on there, you can do that. I don't. I'll just use the samples they've got. There's a lot of them. And quite frankly, I don't mind this one. So there you go. That's the cross stick. Now, another bonus with a digital snare. Your throw off. With your throw off, you can use the actual tension knob to assign other things. So you can just have it turned off, or you can do what I've done, which is I particularly like. Well, you can, I've got it set up for my Bluetooth play along tracks. So I've just got play along tracks on my phone. I Bluetooth it to the V7 drum module, and putting this on allows me just to press in the strainer knob, just click it in, press it down, and that'll stop play the Bluetooth song. And I can turn the strainer knob to select the song forward or back on whatever device I'm Bluetoothing on. So there you go, extra bonus on the snare drum. Okay, let's have a look at the hi-hat next. A little bit more involved. So this is I'm using the VH14D hi-hat, so they're the standard digital hi-hats that come with the VAD drum kit. Okay, so let's have a look here on the editor. We can see that what it's doing is it automatically gives you, because of the, I want to point with my finger, you're not going to see that, because this is linked, oh, actually it doesn't matter, because the head and rim link is turned on. It'll just automatically, let's take a different, let's do another. So you can see what it does, it just puts the rim in the edge, hi-hat sounds across, and it automatically takes care of the sounds that you'd get playing the cymbal open or closed, and the clicking from using your pedal closed, and that's because of this setting here. If you want to put your own hi-hat sounds in, you will need to sample your hi-hat sounds open, close, and closing. Okay, so you know, the put your foot down click sound, make sure you sample that one. Make sure you sample it hitting the bow and the edge. It's two different samples with it closed and hitting the bow and the edge of the top hi-hat with it open, so you've got them all covered. I didn't go to that depth. Once again, what I've recorded suits my playing style, but easy enough to put them in. First thing you need to do to put your user samples in is change this mix to hi-hat. That one's nice and obvious, and you'll get a little message to say if you're going to change to the hi-hat mode, you will need a sample for each component of your hi-hat. Okay, done. Fair call. And then that way it now gives you the three layers, one for your hi-hat open, one for your hi-hat when you close it, and one for when you play it with the pedal down closed. Okay, so let's go and change those. So firstly, we are going to change the hi-hat. Use a sample, left click of course. I want to go and use my sound edge hi-hats. So where are they? Sound edge open. There it is. Okay. And because I worked it on the rim sound only, it automatically assigns it. I'll just turn that off. If you did have playing on the bow and playing on the edge, well, you can do that separately, click it off. I'll put the same sample in, but you get the idea. This would be the bow sound open. This would be the edge sound open. Okay, I'll leave that back on because it suits me. And now next, this is the sound of it closing. So we're going to go across to here. For the close, where is it? Hi-hat close, sound edge. There it is, done. Okay, and now the sound of your hi-hat with your pedal down playing. And for this case, my sample was playing the bow of the cymbal with the pedal down. So I'm going to go across. And I'm going to go to the hi-hat. Boom, 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 boom. That's the ride. That would sound weird, wouldn't it? There it is. Done. Okay, so that's how you put your hi-hat together.
So let's put a custom picture now with our custom kit. This is one I've done previously. And what we're going to start with is we're going to go to Others. And then we need to go to custom kit. So just use those little cursor keys like that. Kit options, sorry. Press enter. Now, the word global is showing up under kit image. You need to change it. Global just means the default one they have, which is, well, the picture that they have. So let's change that. So we're going to enter on global. And we're going to change it to on. Enter that. And then you can import your picture. Now, your picture you should have already had on your SD card as a PNG file. That's what they use, PNG files. All right. I've got one loaded ready to go there. So let's import that. Ask me if I'm okay. You bet I'm sure. Let's do that and press enter. And there it is. Completed. Custom picture ready to go. Enter on there. No, that's not right. Not enter. Exit on there. And there it is. Done. So now let's give our kit a name. We're going to go up to here where it says user kit. Press on the little pencil. Highlight that out. And then all you really need to do is just type in whatever name you want to call it. In this case, let's call it Bob PDP. Click OK. And that's it. There you have it. And there it is. This is what it looks like on the drum module. Of course, this is user kit number 80, and the previous work we'll be doing on user kit 81. I've had some camera issues and I really didn't want to redo it all, but if you follow the steps, that's exactly what you do get. Okay.
Wow, there's something. This is sounding great. Okay, let's go through each individual element and we'll see what that sounds like. All right, let's start with the crashes. Choking them. That is really, they're my crashes. I recognise them. That sounds fantastic. All right, let's try the ride cymbal, that big tricky one. Sounds perfect, even through this headphone that's falling out of my ear. All right, edge. It sounds so rich, I love it. The bell. That could be in a clock tower. That is my 2002 22-inch ride right there. Compacted down to something rubbery and digital. Sounds great. All right, let's check out the toms. 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. That's fantastic. The transient just cuts off a bit quick on that, but if you're playing it over and you've got everything else ringing, you won't notice that. Okay, snare. Fantastic. Cross stick. Fantastic. Kick drum. That is awesome. Just want to play all day. All right, hi-hat. Fantastic. It has really come together well. And lastly, for those people that did want a bit of a rim as well, there it is. It's working really well. Let's just take this out. It's really hard to hear your own voice with these in-ears in. That is working extremely well. It actually brings me back to playing. Oh, I forgot one thing. I just saw it. Something shiny. My BT bar cowbell. Okay, that actually has brought me back. That's my live kit right there in my ears. That is a really, really good thing. What can I say? I will say, look, it's a very long project to take on. It does take a lot of time. Learning wise, look, some of the transients aren't great. Fair enough, they're not. I personally would say it's probably worth the investment into some good mics. Certainly if you can get yourself into a better acoustic treated room than just an open room that I did it in, you will definitely get better cymbals. So I think it's going to come down to the better your cymbal, the better your single, so the better your sample that you've taken from that single in. With the acoustics, the better the sample, the better it is going to sound on this kit. It really does sound as good as the sample I've put in, is exactly what I'm hearing. So well worthwhile. It's something that we can do on the Roland. So if you want to get your acoustic kit and get the feel, if you want to get the sound of that into your electric kit with the V7.1 drum module, it is very, very doable. Working it through on the V7.1 editor, it's very straightforward. The only thing I'd say about the V7.1 editor for doing samples is when you go to your user samples, you can't click on that user sample just to hear what sample you're about to put in. That would be a really nice little add-on. Roland, if you're listening, unlikely he's going to listen to me. But anyway, well worth doing. So, if you like this video or you found it helpful, please hit the like button. It does help me. I am independent. My thoughts are my thoughts. I'm not being paid by anyone. As I said at the beginning, who would pay me, right? But if you want to help me out to be able to do this more, please hit the subscribe button. It really does help as well. Okay, Bob out.